Mr Dodson, and not to interrupt the Senator during his first speech. Senator Duniam.
Well, thank you, Mr President. Can I start by firstly congratulating you on your re-election? I have to say it is terribly gratifying to have a Tasmanian in charge. I'm sure, as so many who've gone before me have found, it's an incredibly difficult task to put satisfactorily into words the great honour and privilege it is to be elected to represent one's fellow Australians in this place. We've had a long election campaign and then a long wait for the result under the new Senate counting rules. I have to be honest and say that, like I imagine most Australians, it sometimes felt like this day would never actually come. But that long campaign, the endless hours on the road, knocking on doors and getting to know Tasmanians right across the state, gave me the opportunity to reflect on just why I'm doing this and what this amazing and humbling honour actually means to me. Mr President, I come from a spectacular state. I come from a state of which there is much to be proud. As the sixth generation of Duniams living on the remarkable island of Tasmania, I have a deep affection for that place and a strong commitment to doing what I can to ensure the future is strong for the generations that follow us. The Tasmanian people, much like the place itself, are a resilient people. Our state, like many other parts of this country, has been dealt its fair share of bitter blows. But every time our community is dealt one of these blows, true of the Australian fighting spirit, the Tasmanian community picks itself up and works hard to get back on track. In my short life, I've seen it many times, where communities pitch together to help out those in need and where no one is left behind. And we've faced particular challenges in Tasmania, be it the tragedy that unfolded at Port Arthur in 1996, or the 2013 bushfires which devastated the small community of Dunalley, or the sudden and destructive floods we saw across Tasmania during this year's election campaign, or indeed in my childhood home on the northwest coast of Tasmania, where one after another major employer slowly left town. First, the Tarkside pigment factory closed, then the APPM paper mills were downsized and eventually closed. Each of these closures was bad in itself, taking hundreds of jobs out of our small community. But the direct consequences to so many other medium and small businesses which rely on big factories saw thousands of jobs go. But every time, the people of my home state always come together, looking at ways to help those in need and ways to redefine themselves so they can take the next set of challenges head on. It's this resilience, this fighting spirit of my fellow Tasmanians that inspires me. From some of the most remote and disadvantaged communities to our cities, most people are willing to work hard and want the best for our state. I want for my 3 children, and now the 7th generation of my family living in Tasmania, and for all of their generation, a future they can look forward to. A future where opportunities exist to do things that previous generations haven't been able to, in employment, in education and in lifestyle. And a reason to make your life in Tasmania rather than seek opportunity elsewhere. Tasmania already has so much on offer. Amazing natural wilderness, including some of the most spectacular forests and breathtaking coastlines, world-class produce like our fish, meat and dairy products, and our increasingly famous cool climate wines. It's innovative people through our multi-campus university, research centres and small start-up businesses. Tasmania already has the critical elements for a strong future and economic growth. The challenge is in harnessing those elements, maximising them and creating opportunities for the future. Key to this, Mr President, as many in our home state would know, is, in my view, the need to tackle the endless departure of young people from our state to take up life elsewhere. Indeed, we should also be doing what we can to entice those back who've left. And we need to let people from other parts of the world in on the secret. Tasmania is a great place to come and live, to work, to raise a family and to develop your potential. As a father and as a young Tasmanian myself, I see this as one of the key challenges facing our state. One only needs to look at the demography of our state to understand the need to tackle the problem I'm talking about. Tasmania has the greatest percentage of people over the age of 65 of any state or territory in the country. Indeed, between the years 2000 and 2015, that percentage increased from 13.5% to 18.3%. By comparison, the percentage of people in Tasmania aged between 24 and 35 had dropped by 5.5% over the same period. This leaves that age group the most underrepresented in our state by a long shot. These are alarming statistics and only reinforce the need to address this issue. If we work to a goal where a greater share of the population is at an age where they'll be coming into the workforce and contributing to our economy, we'll start seeing an improvement in Tasmania's ability to provide essential services and, dare I say it, for the benefit of my West Australian colleagues, to help contribute more to the national economy. As I've mentioned, since my endorsement, I've had the honour of meeting many compassionate, intelligent and hard-working Tasmanians who, in the course of their everyday lives, are doing their bit to enhance our state's future for the next generation. These people share my desire to see a Tasmania where more young people can and will choose to stay, to find a job, to buy or build a home, to start a business or to raise a family. As I've already said, Tasmanian produce is high quality and becoming world-renowned. As a result, the Tasmanian brand carries with it a premium that the world is willing to pay for. Agriculture to our nation is a vital industry, and it's certainly no different in Tasmania. Fundamentally, it sustains and nourishes us. Economically, it's often a major employer in rural and regional communities, an industry where there is employment and investment potential, particularly for our more remote communities which so often miss out. But like so many other primary industries, the real challenge is in trying to find the next generation of people able to take on the farm. Mr. President, the high cost just to purchase a farming operation is something that prohibits almost any aspirational young farmer from getting him or herself onto the land. The exception, of course, is if you're already on the family farm. During the campaign, I had cause to meet with successful young Tasmanian farmer and business innovator James McShane, along with his wife Tarnee. James was the president of Tasmanian Rural Youth and is a strong advocate for the agriculture sector in our state. James and his wife discussed with me at length the need to find ways to get younger people onto the land, and they confirmed that there was no shortage of young farmers wanting to make a start. The key question was, how do we enable these younger people to get a foot in the door and overcome the hurdle of cost? James's suggestion revolved around the willingness and ability of young farmers to consider leasing a farming operation. This would enable young people to get onto the land, start a farming business and work toward eventual ownership of a farm. Simple though it may sound, he also believes there's a need for the government to assist in directing traffic and providing safeguards around such an initiative. I believe this idea has significant merit and would be a positive step in enabling a younger demographic to live in and contribute to our rural and regional communities. Mr. President, I want to mention another sector of the economy, the manufacturing sector, which across our nation has faced some serious challenges. Competing in global markets is difficult against many low-cost competitors from other parts of the world. Tasmania, like many other parts of the country, has had a strong history in manufacturing. Even to this day, we're still home to some world-leading and innovative manufacturing operations, from the boutique to larger operations with international markets. However, like the rest of the country, we need to compete to survive. I had the good fortune of spending some time with one fellow involved at a grassroots level in the local manufacturing scene in northwest Tasmania. His name was Brett Cleary. Brett indicated to me that he'd observed over the years a pattern of local businesses importing components and items for the repair and maintenance of their operations from overseas. This importing took place when items of an identical nature and quality were able to be manufactured right there on the northwest coast, and indeed at a far cheaper rate than the imports. As Brett explained to me, this happened simply because there was no knowledge of the local option, and the smaller local manufacturers had limited means of promoting their wares against larger overseas suppliers. He believed there was a need to somehow promote the fact that local manufacturing options could supply what local consumers were after, right there on the doorstep at a competitive price. His suggestion was to facilitate a central point where local manufacturers can link up with local buyers. Of course, a local community is not going to be able to produce everything it needs within that local community. But if there is a chance that it can be done, then we should support that and enable local manufacturers to thrive and in turn employ local people. By enhancing the chances of local innovative manufacturing operations through simply connecting manufacturer with consumer, we are retaining jobs in our community, rather than needlessly sending them elsewhere. These could provide new and sustainable jobs for younger people, jobs that might just keep them in our communities. Mr. President, these are just two examples of suggestions made to me during the election by other people. I'm not talking about things I've come up with or ideas that I had, and I know no one here has a mortgage on good ideas. No one has all the answers, and if I thought I had all the answers, I'm pretty sure I'll be told very soon that I'm wrong. This, Mr. President, is an illustration of the importance of getting out, of staying in touch with our community and understanding what will work to fix local problems. I see the most important part of my role is to listen to my community and to work with them on suggestions and ideas they may have for our future. This is the good thing about a strong community. People can work together, share ideas and reach a good outcome. Additionally, Mr. President, good ideas and good policies don't need to be complex. In fact, it's my belief that they shouldn't be. Simple, practical policies don't have to involve large bureaucracies and mountains of paperwork to actually achieve results. And the two examples of great ideas that came from listening to my community, they're ideas that don't require massive machines of government to make them work, yet they're ideas I believe will yield great benefits for the community. I look forward to continuing to work with the people I've mentioned and the Tasmanian community on trying to bring to life these and other positive ideas for a strong future in my home state and other parts of the country. Mr. President, being able to do this, take up the ideas of my community in this place and within government is the benefit of our system of parliamentary democracy. Every day we need to give thanks for the simple fact that we are blessed with free democratic government. Australia is one of the few countries in the world that, since our federation in 1901, has continuously enjoyed stable and fair democratic government. It's easy for those of us who've known nothing else to take for granted the amazing benefits and freedoms we have living in a democracy. We can have our say over the future of our country, and indeed it's up to us when we at the ballot box cast our vote on election day. We can openly express dissent in the government. We can form alternative political parties for a specific cause or community, and we can do all of these things without fear of repercussions, punishment or persecution. As is true of many Australian families, my family is no stranger to involvement in democratic institutions. My late grandmother, Iris Graham, OAM, was the first woman elected to the Burnie Council in 1953, and then almost 20 years later stood as a Labor candidate in the Tasmanian Legislative Council seat of West Devon. Sadly, she was unsuccessful, but then, perhaps having seen the light, subsequently ran as an independent. My own mother, Mary Dunniam, is currently the Deputy Mayor of Waratah Wynyard Municipality, a force of nature in her own right, supported so wonderfully by my amazing father Roy. But for me, the true value of democracy really only became clear when I met my wife Anissa and her family. Anissa's family sought political asylum in Australia, having come from Albania, a country that approximately for 46 years was brutally ruled by a communist dictatorship that oppressed its people in the worst of ways. Over the 15 or so years that I've had the honour of knowing my parents-in-law, I've heard firsthand just how evil that regime was and how lucky they feel to be here in Australia, enjoying all the rights, privileges and responsibilities of democracy. Just them saying that to me and knowing how they cherish those rights really brings it home. Both of my parents-in-law came from families classified by the regime to be anti-communist, and so, of course, the Communist Party not only viewed all of the family members, including the children, with suspicion, they took any opportunity to punish them. For instance, my wife's maternal great-grandfather, Fron Mirakai, was ordered to denounce his Catholic faith and instead pledge his faith in the dictator. His refusal to do so resulted in him being tortured to death in ways that don't bear explaining. In April this year, this man, who was killed for simply standing up for his beliefs, was among the Albanian martyrs beatified by Pope Francis. And then there was the story of Sut Bashar, my wife's great-aunt, who, because of her anti-communist ties, was imprisoned with her 3 young sons for over 25 years. While Sut eventually was released from political prison, sadly only one of her children joined her in freedom. The other 2, too young to express an opinion in any way, never survived the ordeal. Mr. President, I could go on, but the point I want to make is that I draw a true appreciation of democracy from the experience of my wife's family. They fought hard and sacrificed a lot for what we have and sadly what we take for granted. This is also a key reason why I identify as a Liberal, the protection of freedoms in our society. Underpinning our strong democracy is a need for respect, respect for one another's views and indeed respect for the outcome of a democratic process. I hope that, with the significant and sensitive debates we have coming up, we can all show respect for one another and our individual views. Mr President, the values, the views and the priorities I bring to this place have been built around what I've learnt in my life so far. A thoughtful man once said, "The 7 crimes of modern society were these: wealth without work, pleasure without conscience, knowledge without character, commerce without morality, science without humanity, worship without sacrifice, and perhaps above all, politics without principle." My own guiding principles come from my own hard-working parents, from the experiences relayed to me by my parents-in-law, and from my own personal beliefs and life experiences to date. It is those things that will inform the decisions I make, nothing else and no one else. Mr President, no election is possible without the help of many. Across Tasmania and across the nation, thousands of volunteers who, because of their beliefs in our Liberal cause, went out en masse and campaigned for a Liberal victory. I'll never forget the support our party membership in Tasmania has shown to me. I'm honoured also that some of those volunteers have flown from Tasmania to join me today, including Jim and Judy Bowler, who helped me out first shortly after I moved to Hobart for university by renting me a house. And Mr President, I have to say I must have made a pretty good impression, because they ended up renting their house to 5 very unruly university students, yet they're still here supporting me today. So thank you. Some of my dearest friends are also here, Nick, Jane and Dan, to name just a few. Thank you so much for your unending support. And over the years, I've had the opportunity to work with many amazing and committed people. Brad Stansfield, Don Morris, Kate Raggett, Sandy Widdowson, among scores of others I can't even begin to name today. Their commitment and loyalty to the cause cannot be questioned. These people will remain friends I'll have for life. And to them I say your invaluable advice and guidance will always be appreciated. I also want to pay tribute to the professionals of the Tasmanian Division, our State President Jeff Page for his admirable and common-sense leadership of our party in Tasmania, supported by Sam McQuestion, who did an amazing job in tough circumstances. I'd also like to thank those who've taken a chance on me over the years, including your predecessor, Mr President Paul Calvert, Erica Betts, you, Mr President, and the Premier of Tasmania, Will Hodgman. Thank you for the opportunities I've been given. Also the Speaker of the Tasmanian House of Assembly, Elise Archer, who's done me the honour of being here today. Thank you, Elise, for yours and for Dale's support. To my fellow first-time candidates who sadly didn't make it here, Amanda Sue Markham, Marcus Allen and John Tucker, thank you for working with me through the campaign. To my parents-in-law, Zachary and Tina, thank you for welcoming me into your family and for supporting Anissa and myself as you have done so unconditionally. To my parents, Mary and Roy, you've always encouraged my ideas and my goals. Your commitment to family and hard work in life was not lost on me. The example you've provided me has set me up for life. I know how hard you both work to provide for our family, and I truly thank you. To my brother Matthew and his partner Shaka, and my sister Paula and her husband Brett, thank you for being so supportive of me on this journey. My late grandfather, Tasman Dunniam, once gave me a homemade box in which he wrote, maybe whimsically, that one day I might become a Tasmanian senator. So I think we can all blame him for putting that idea into my head. And finally, to my family, my 3 wonderful sons, Hugo, Henry and Spencer. I know there'll be times we won't see a lot of each other, but I hope in time you understand why we decided to do this. And finally, my partner in crime, the ever-understanding Anissa, my wife, who's supported me from day one. I know I'll be thanking you for the rest of my life. Mr President, my late grandmother Iris Graham had a lifelong motto, deeds not words. What I say here today about what I want to achieve, while important, is one thing. Acting on words and hopes is quite another. I look forward to working hard to implement what I believe is right for my state and for this country. I thank the Senate.